live. And we're live. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Wherever you are in the world today, now you're in Wonderland, a place where you can't get there from here, but we're already here and you can get here by just lifting yourself up and being who you are. The White Rabbit is late, as always, but I'm your host, Dr. Lenny Time, for today, Humpty Dumpty. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again. So we'll go from there. In the collection of characters today, we have Max, Alex, and Ryan. And our talk is going to be about the edumacation system and the edutainment system and new ways to look at learning, because learning is a lifelong endeavor. And our process of learning superseded by the system process of indoctrination, and we need to learn is to learn without filter at every age, and then come back and put it all together from all sorts of perspectives, such that what we learn is a function of what we teach, and what we teach is a function of what we learn, and we're all embedded together in whatever this construct is that the construct is. Matt, welcome. What's up?
Oh, education. Education itself is maddening, for there's nothing to learn other than learning itself. And so as we wander through Wonderland, Wonderland itself teaches us all that there is to know, and our imagination unlocks the key to deciphering those lessons.
Great. Alice, welcome to Wonderland Part 5. But you've always been here. What's your spin on the edumacation system?
The best teachers learn something new. So we're in a constant state of learning, and if we're not learning, we're dying. We're actually decaying if we're not learning. So grow, keep growing like a plant. Connect with the sun, right? The photosynthesis, but not just the sun. It's the sun in everything. The sun is the light and the learning and the love and the so grow that way towards the sun.
Awesome. Ryan, welcome to Wonderland. The introductory statement for today's listeners.
You guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
First of all, I just want to say I'm happy to be here, and finally meet you guys. Somewhat, I guess. But this is kind of an unusual format for me, so I guess have a lot to offer, but I don't know if jumping in this format like this is going to help. Just because I have a different approach, I guess, in a way, and I would prefer if I could just listen in and be part of the.
Yeah, that's completely fine.
Okay.
Listening is a great approach to education.
And this is a whole new format. I am cyberphobic like crazy, so if you guys only knew, so. But I appreciate it.
We will continue our conversation offline. Am I back, Max?
You are back, but it's still choppy on your end.
Okay. Yeah, the whole system dumped me out. Strange. Zion will continue conversation later. And now that we're back, see that there are some very interesting technical difficulties involved with this show now. I think that my ability to maneuver around the screen is limited, and I do not understand why, but there we go. And I can't change the banners right now. It's all in your ballpark, Max.
Okay, we'll see how it goes.
The education that we're given depends on us believing in what we know. And we know what we know because we were taught it and it got reinforced by knowing that what we thought was indeed how it actually was. And now with the system as we have it today, where we are an X group, we're using StreamYard in order to have face-to-face conversations to bring the group more intimate into itself. The idea is that close relationships where you actually get to look into somebody's eyes and can see how they're doing things are the best form of interpersonal contact. And the idea of video and audio is a good proxy that lets those of us who are alone in the reality be virtually not alone together in groups that can interact and persuade. The idea of Wonderland as a game, a resource where the players act in character but speak their mind, is a different type of interaction, and it complicates as more people join the group. But I think it's going to be foundational for members of small groups to be able to have group of two interactions where everybody talks to everybody and cross-pollinates the sphere of influence. And so in talking with Zion before and at the beginning of the show, I learned quite a bit about the idea that everybody's mechanisms are different and complete change is completely overwhelming to individuals who haven't built up the, shall we call it, stamina for change. But I think that at this point, it's so important for people to get to know other people and to drop the background anti-integration that we've had drilled into us from the start. And instead of questioning where people are coming from and trying to get them to conform to my view of the world, I think it's important to listen to their view of the world and realize everybody's in their own world. Here in Wonderland, Doc will call it a timeline, because each of our timelines plays out to part of the narrative, which is a paradigm of action. But the narrative and the paradigm combine to form the narradigm, and the narradigm takes place over many different timelines. The only timeline that we have access to is but the one we're on is not necessarily the same one from day to day or even from moment to moment. it seems that sleep has the ability to change timelines, and maybe blinking has the ability to change timelines. But as long as we're on simultaneous timelines going in the same direction, we're working in parallel with non-cognitive versions of ourselves and cognitive versions of other people who are non-cognitive in this timeline. So the game involves actors and NPCs. And if you're not an actor, you're an NPC. But if you have an idea and present it, that makes you an actor. Cognitive ability on this stage is an art form. And so each of us come from a different direction, looking in order to improve ourselves by working to improve the product that we're forming with each other. I think I said my piece for now.
Yeah, part of the trick to learning in Wonderland is learning how to wield that sense of wonder, and not get too caught up on the familiarity of what you thought it might have been or how you thought it was going to go. There's a certain wonderment that comes. There's a certain education that comes from leaning into that wonderment and allowing things to unfold as they do, as opposed to unfolding as you thought they might.
Pattern recognition began in a cognition. Who did you begin to trust when you were told what is a must? We only know and believe what brings us a relief. Our fight or flight response is developed by the repetitive clocks. Am I referring to a clock as in socks, or if a hook made you walk the edge of a plank or docks? What might have kept you in a box? Or when you hear on your door the knocks by what we call flips and flops? When did we first adjust the assertive must as a must, the assertive thrust as a must? Was it when we began to know who to trust?
Lovely.
When Doc
Do
was
we
speaking,
even know who to trust?
yeah, cognition comes in the trust, and so it's developed below the age of 6, right? According to psychology. But when Doc was speaking, it reminded me of being forced into accepting timelines. It was done by gunpoint, and really the timeline was the money line at a certain point in time, where even the islands were forced to exchange the money with the mainlands, right? And then this happened all the way worldwide, and done by gunpoint, done by force, done by the edge of the tip of the spear, right?
As mud. And that is the antithesis of the coming age. It is the complete opposite of how the Wonderland will be ushered in.
Time is an illusion. Time is an illusion that is badly broken conceptually in the world they call reality. That there's actually 2 times, both given the same word, and maybe even more than that. But the time that we have from calendars and clocks that is extremely limiting and puts us in a pressure-packed cubicle in which no time to waste, no time to waste. I'm late, I'm late. If I can quote my friend the bunny here. Oh, I guess it's on that side. And in reality, time is timeless, and that we, if we need time, can conceptually open up a portable hole and climb in and take as much time as we need in the portable hole outside of the realm of time, do the work, then climb out of the portable hole and back into the reality at the same moment in clock time that existed when we were there. The concept comes from Bugs Bunny, who always carried a portable hole in his lapel and would throw it on a wall and climb in to evade the FUD. There's so much in cartoon physics that's real. Go ahead, Alice.
Thank you. Learning and unlearning through the cycles of time, evolving and devolving, and recognizing which is which. The recognition of patterns, we see how not to just survive, but thrive. I've set up what's permanent so that we can move forward into the game of life, the period of rest. Do you want it to be for 1,000 years? If temporary suits you so that you don't sell yourself into what you think is a permanent disaster, then set it up for the time period of whatever time means to you.
I like Doc's spelling of time the best. I actually have some sitting right above my kitchen inside, above my kitchen sink inside.
I like the comment, the cherry harvest, time revolves around the fruits. It absolutely does. It revolves around the season and the preparation. And that's what we're here doing right now. We're harvesting, we're canning, I'm not in Michigan, but I grew up in Wisconsin, so I understand the weather and the fruit around Lake Michigan. And yeah, beautiful, beautiful time of year, right? So, but now we're collecting. We have created the people as the harvest, right? We are enjoying the fruits of our labor already. It's coming back. We're seeing after someone gets triggered by one of their core beliefs, and they understand that they have to work within themselves. They go and take some quiet time, spend some time in the dark place, and then come back again. And we're able to see that that the impact of that we have made in them. And so being able to see what's happened, the transformation, like a caterpillar to a butterfly in a human, right? Being able to see that and see who's flying now with us, understanding, who's on the same page and has the same flight pattern or whatever. It's, we all have a different gift, but you can tell the people who have the spirit of understanding. That is a huge key.
Yeah, and something that's coming up to me right now is I think the cherries reminded me of it, but the concept of periodic. There's a natural resonance to periodic cycles. And that is a different way of looking at time than the clocks and the calendars that are so cubicleifying, as Doc so aptly pointed out. But these periods of change, these cycles, there's a lot to learn from that. It's not, there's a season for each.
What is the old compass that they used to use to navigate
The
the season?
astrolabe.
Thank you. Okay. So the astrolabe was actually the calendar before.
Mm-hmm.
It was entire navigation of time and space.
I have worked out a Wonderland calendar. Well, it's actually a tree calendar that came based off of a grid of 64, which is a checkerboard or the I Ching. And the idea of periodicity and periodic flow makes a lot more sense in an 8-day strong instead of a 7-day week, and a 64-day grid instead of a calendar year. And in that way, the form of the grid from mass, form, flow, power, love, sound, mind, and voice gives a philosophical approach to meaning for every day in the sequence. And it has the advantage of getting an individual off of the current calendars, which have 31 or 28 or 30 days in a month, and a very unhuman rhythm of 5-2, 5-2, 4-3, 5-2, 5-2, 5-2, 4-3, instead of something like 6 days on, 2 days off, and rotating through different frameworks. But conversation for another shape and time. Edumacation. What do we know? How do we teach? How do we learn? That is the question we had thought about presenting here. But I think I like where we're going on time just as much. And so let's take it whichever way it flows. And if the conversation doesn't go along to the title of the stream, that's like yesterday when I was talking with 21 and ended up live streaming with Maxx with the bad title. Oops. We did it again. We played with your mind. Oh, wait. Brittany didn't know what she was talking about. It's all mind control. Dice rolls, please. Okay.
So
I had enough of that.
With the grid of strongs, I'm just gonna try and get one put together that's accessible. Sorry, I got a friend here joining me. Put together a grid that's accessible for people to see, or even that I can load up on the screen. But when it comes to the learnings, I'm looking forward to being back in the Wonderland where we learn by playing games. Like it's fun. It's puzzles. It's wonderment. There's no such thing as homework. That's such a horrible concept. It's games, and people love to learn, and it brings out your inner child as you play the games. And games can be played by multiple generations, different generations of people at the same time, which gives cross-generational education. It should all just be play. There's no reason to make it harder than that.
So from everything that I had been doing, with especially with writing the poetry, I saw that the ancients, how the philosophers taught, that's what's coming back in the poetry. So as the philosophers such as Aristotle and Plato and Socrates, who taught all about what community is and how politics was working, right? This is like they spun in this direction. Now we're spinning in the opposite direction, going back to community, right? But including parts of the community is the technological advancements that humans have made in order to set people free. But it's like people can go back into hermit mode and be by themselves because the human needs are taken care of technologically. And so going back to the philosophers, it's a new philosophy. It's never new philosophy. It's just going back to the philosophy of life instead of the death cults that everyone has been programmed into by the modern systems, including the education system and including the dictionary. The dictionary has a continual dissension of neuropathy in it. It's why we have found that in order to have these kind of conversations, it's almost like we're developing some new words, okay? And so, it's definitely a decline of health, especially in the medical textbooks. They don't have the ascending words that we need in order or to grow again, right?
Mm-hmm.
Their whole purpose is to take the money, and so it's always developing what the problem is, such as the DSM-5. It's listed with all of these labels, right, of someone's mental health or decline in mental health, I should say, in order to appropriate which poison to put them on. You see the dissension that I'm talking about there, instead of what's becoming popular again. Thank goodness everybody's taking on their role about helping people cure from something. And yes, I used the word cure because it's not allowed to use cure in the medical system, right? So that's totally wrong. Everybody can be cured from ailments, certain ailments, and a lot of the programs that are run are to make people sick, whether it's in the physical form or whether it's even just the mental form. And the mental form has so much control over us that when we correct our thoughts and our words, and then we take the actions in alignment with the cure and with health, so much of the diseases fall away.
Disease. And the Cure was a pretty good rock band back in the day. And the meaning of words in a dictionary should be superseded by our glossaries, where each time we use a word in a substantially different meaning of context, we should add it to the glossary. And each of us should have our personal glossaries. It's something the AI could do for us real easy. We come to a word that somebody says, request a word, you hit a button and the AI goes and gives you the glossary of meanings. And if the word is not amongst the glossary of the meanings, the speaker has a pop-up that says, give us your definition of the word such and such. Because I think a lot of people use words to talk past each other. And one thing I've learned is that if you want to attract people's attention to a specific word in a sentence, misspell the word. And instantly people will go and say, hey, wait, you use that word in the wrong context. But the idea is, yes, I did. Now I've got your attention. And so when I'm talking about time the spice, it certainly goes good on me. But the system of how we get to call different things by the same name has been deliberately taught to us, and each different professional field has their own spoken language for clarity. And we need badly to cross the fields and smell the flowers and have a bit of fun, because I'm Humpty Dumpty and the world fell off the wall.
Well,
That's
really
very
like
good
the comment
upcycle.
by
I like that.
Yeah, it was worth the display.
so the complete redefinition of what education is, right? So from the people that are experts in the math formats, right? From the parameters that are set, we see a big shift in the world with the inclusion of the aether, right? And so, can both be taught? Do we need to agree on, move forward, and then and now go to science, right? And science, the science has been branded so strongly by the medical system, right? And this is why we were silenced, right?
Mhm.
Because we are the dis-ease to their dis-ease, right? We're disrupting them and they can't handle it, and now it's falling, the truths are coming out, and so now this is our turn to emerge from the shadows that they've put us in. Okay, so that's math and science. Now languages, right? Going back to, are we going to learn our ancient languages from our family? A lot of that's happening right now, but we're able to do use translators very easily on different formats, such as when you stream this on YouTube, somebody can add the subtitles, and that's really nice for anyone in any language to be able to understand. I have friends that watch this in different languages, and they see what we're talking about here in English, even though they don't speak English or can't hear English anyway, and are able to understand the message that we're putting across, including places like X, where you just have a translate button and it translates it for you. Now, sometimes how accurate is that translator? I think you get the bigger idea through it all. But then what other, okay, so languages, and you see art. I feel like art is a natural talent for the artist or the receiver, right? And so, what else? There's geometry.
Okay.
There's okay. Go ahead, Doc.
Yeah, no, I lost the thought of why I raised my hand, and we need to figure out a more efficient way of being able to cut each other off, because you said a couple of words that I consider buzzwords, and when my hand goes up, it means I want to call you on what you just said to get
I
you
think
to explain deeper.
I think it was with the aether, because I know that you're one of the math and science experts in here. Okay.
No, it was actually after that, but when I say ether and you say aether, it demonstrates to me that your learning was by actually reading the books and ingesting the material. And one of the problems we have in the society right now is that people aren't hearing the messages from anybody who are not in their socioeconomic box. And the education system has gotten so topsy-turvy that people who learn their information from books know more than people who have graduated from colleges and universities. And you can't, when you're looking at somebody and making the judgment of what they know, you're already blowing attempt. You're paralyzing yourself from the learning experience, and not you specifically, Alice, but the way that it came about is that if we can't get the language right before we have the conversation, we miss the essence of what's being said. So on occasion, when you get to be a little too long-winded, and I wanted to catch a point of what you were saying because it was a good point, and I need more depth in fleshing it out, that's going to be a way that in our group of 3 and then in bigger groups, we can have models that work so that when we fractalize up into a bigger sphere of dealing with different people, we've got ground rules that work for everybody on human scale. And I've noticed that in conversations, if you follow in X space conversations, if you follow the rules and raise your hand, it might take 15, 20 minutes before the host recognizes you. But if you unmic and cut in, you get instantly recognized and jumped ahead of everybody who's raised their hand. And so the raising of hand of X is a barrier to people who follow the rules. In Wonderland, we want to reward people who don't follow the rules. And so rules in the system are made to be broken. And if you break a rule, that should entitle you to win that game. And if you win that game, we end the game because it has a winner. And then we pick it up again and start a new game that is Rev B of the old game. And I think that will help us capture some of those points in time without making it a bad thing to interrupt the speaker, because some people use their time and go forever. And one of the things on X Spaces that blows my mind is how one person talking can chase away half a room.
I see that on X Spaces. Sometimes you wait hours for a speak. And if you interrupt, you are thrown down into listeners. So in that case, taking notes is a great idea for different points that we want to dig into, but also here interrupting. It's different from X Spaces because we're talking face to face. And in X Spaces, because you're behind an avatar, you some people yell and scream and interrupt and are real jerks, right? Something like that happened to me yesterday. But
tell us that story. It sounds interesting.
Okay, so it was about the Bible. You know, I was sharing Bible verses, and because someone disagreed with their theology, they asked me questions. But they wouldn't let me answer the question. Instead, they interrupted me upon my response, calling me names. Okay. And then they started, they were screaming in this space. When we're not speaking face to face, it really gives people the opportunity to, in my opinion, show their true colors, we'll say, and because they're hiding behind the screen. And here, at least, we are. If we get interrupted here, I think we could be a little bit more cordial. So I
Okay,
understand.
so
I understand
Humpty
your.
Dumpty's wall is what you just said. And now we've got it so that we need to break the wall instead of letting Humpty fall off it.
So I saw that your hand raised, and I thought that you could hold your response with the hand raise. So maybe just interrupt and then it's okay. I can stop.
Yeah, no, Max raise is quite interesting because once he explained it to me, basically his hand is raised to hold his idea so his person can listen and the ideas they're up in the hand. And so when the hand gets recognized, it gives the idea back and he can tell what he was willing to speak.
That's how you do it,
personal technique.
Especially on X, because unless it is a well-ordered room, it's like playing in a gymnasium. Like sometimes it's like being in a classroom, but more often it's like playing in a gymnasium. So the idea that there's going to be some sort of respectful order is kind of far-fetched. And so, yeah, I think an indicator that you have a point is good. And then you kind of just got to be bold when it's group conversations and take the risk of interrupting and make sure you interrupt with point and purpose and poise, as opposed to just interrupting in order to take the ball and run a different direction.
Yes. The art of breaking into a conversation is something that we could have a long class on, because to talk about it in a way that understands what even the problem is kind of a detail to grasp. It's so important that humans were human scale, and that when we go up to bigger scales than human scale is always a trump card, so that if an individual human within our collective group of humans disagrees on some material point of conversation, we hear them out and fix the disagreement before moving onward with the major tasks at hand. But it'll get us to the point where the consensus that we form, which is an agreement to disagree, is that the person on an individual level who is taking an action and doing something trumps over the people who are just talking. And that to me is insane. I mean, most people who are doing things, when they're doing things, are thinking about the things they're doing. And most of the people who are talking in the background are sniping at the doers and undercutting them by preferring different ideas from what the doers would do, but they're too busy doing. And it's a structural flaw. And here, I want to be able to have it so that doers doing their work for the benefit of each of us and all of us consistently go back to human scale and look at, does this treat everybody okay? And we can make agreements based on what is okay. But right now, the violation of individual rights by governance cannot be accepted any longer. And we need a new way, not the old way. But in order to get the new way, everybody who's doing what they do and it works, it shouldn't be fucked with because what they do works. And if I'm going to mess with somebody and tell them something different from what they've always believed, it's at least incumbent on me to give them a lesser out that leaves them with their belief system. Because if I break their belief system, they just toss my knowledge out and believe their belief system anyway. And so, in educating people, anybody who's already been educated through the system is not helpful to me in creating a new system. But people who've been homeschooled or quit school and learned by the school of hard knocks, or read the books that informed them of something, and then they did the research and got overwhelmed by the idiocy of the written word in the modern day. That's where our value is, and it's been trumped for so long that lots of individuals have lots of value and different ways of seeing things.
It might be helpful.
Go ahead.
It might be helpful to put together a list of the books that you recommend, Doc.
Yeah, the tyranny of
I
thought.
have
Though.
many book lists. The base of what I'm trying to do, Isaac Asimov's Foundation series, the approach that I'm taking to how the world is done, Robert Heinlein's Stranger in a Strange Land, Jubal Hershaw, not Michael Smith. Ayn Rand, Atlas Shrugged. There's so many different awesome books that are great models that any given LARP can be based on a book like Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass. And you said there's a third book. So let's find a hard copy of that third book.
The third book is actually what we're living right now. This is our book. This is our reality. This is our movie. Okay. This is the out of Wonderland, or the merge with Wonderland experience, I should say, as our reality and our dreams merge. So does it need to be written in a book?
No,
You know?
absolutely not. In fact, Alice in Wonderland movies are wonderful, and different movies have different approaches. And so the characters that you meet are sort of woven into character, but every so often you get a very strange version of Wonderland, and it's pretty darn awesome. Strange is not bad in any way, shape, or form. Strange and charmed are two of the 6 quarks, with up and down and top and bottom. And it's a total example of the nonsense of the scientific community in making reality unreachable, that they give subatomic particles names like up and down or top and bottom. Those are just spin states, and most people don't understand spin. But if you watch any television for any moment of time, you immediately see that it's spun to spin you, and that life is a vortex. And once you get through the bottom of the vortex, you have to go through a 0 point And that 0 point kicks you either back up to the vortex or here to Wonderland. So anybody who wishes to get to Wonderland, all they have to do is let one of us know, and the invite to Wonderland will be here and waiting. But
I like
the terms
I think we lost you there, Doc.
yeah, frozen.
Okay, I now have unfroze, and you both froze also. My connection has been bad all day.
I like how you were talking about the spin and the unspin. Okay, and at one point during the beginning of my journey, as I was writing and sharing my poetry, I was told that my poetry style is in spinning by a hypnotist. A hypnotist told me that it's dehypnotizing. Okay, so this is again the spinning or the unspin. What have we been hypnotized into, and what are we unspinning from? Having the awareness to the hypnotizations, because there's layers of hypnotization that we have been hypnotized into without really knowing, because that is just from not just our birth, but also the geographical location of our birth and by our parents individually. So all of the things that we were taught in our life, and we're coming to this culmination point where all over the world, we're realizing what we were taught was lies and what we were taught is truth, right? So, okay, guys, I have kind of a fun one here. There's many pussycats and many who have gone mad that wear several hats as we experience happy and sad, and take the next step as we learn and accept each one of our roles through all of the rabbit holes. We may play a role to intercept in shallow or oceans in depth without too many a misstep, including the micro and macro, except. But back to the black and white, cats that you might fright or befriend as we spend our time in rhyme, because this frequency allows us to be in a state of gathering those who are sharing afloat in this space ship to tote the Cheshire for a refresher as we ascend to Wonderland in this 10-man band. I was going to say 3 because it's 3 here on this. There's obviously more than 3 of us.
If we were to track the chat on YouTube, which is also the comments here in StreamYard, we would find that there probably are about 10 people in the room, which would be a group of 8 and set us on the 6th level, according to the rating system that I have. But you see, you said many hats, so I had to get a second hat. But I've lost the feather, so I'm not Yankee Doodle.
It reminds me of the mushroom, the combination of the two.
Yeah, it really would. And wasn't that how Alice got there in the first place, by eating amanitas?
That's how the story goes.
The psilocybin mushrooms are extremely healing substance. That because I get it from the white rabbit. And even though he's late, he's not a liar. And the medical profession has recently started using these psilocybins, and they're using the name, and what they're doing is a hoax. But the whole hoax is the medical profession. And so if you want to make money on investment in the world, boy, there's a lot of places where you can ride the wave of big pharma, but we need little farms and people growing their own food and food to lawns and different concepts of what education is about. And so if we can educate ourselves to re-educate each other in a way that we question belief, I think the new belief that we come up with Wonderland will propel the foundation into a entertaining learning experience or learning entertaining experience. But the way the system is set up now, when you graduate school, you no longer have to learn. And so the attention span goes down and the due diligence of knowing reality becomes shredded. And so each of us has an individual timeline, and all of us have a narradigm together. And the narradigm that we had was fraying. This is a new narradigm on human scale, the new way, where we take everything we thought we knew and weigh it again. But how do we weigh things? Do we have a good scale? Is it all in balance? Is it one of those things where each of us has different values and the exchange of values can't be fair because things that I don't value at all are of great value to each of you, but we haven't established common values, and the value system based on money is rigged. And so my friend Alice, she came into the world of Wonderland looking for something different than the way the world was. And lo and behold, the Queen of Heaven is here as Alice reborn, and the story continues.
So
We've
the
been
Queen
on
of
for Queen of Heaven.
Yes, the Queen of Heaven asked the question. If money was no longer part of the equation, what would be the purpose of an invasion?
And that's the end of violence.
Thank you.
And maybe on that, we'll call it the end of the stream. I have a big day ahead of me and some things to attend to. And it's just such a good high note. How's that sound to you guys? All good?
It sounds good. And everyone, we'll see you next week. Same bat time, same bat station.
Ideas.